beloveds, and welcome to Vida Spiritual Connection. My name is Sunshine Daye. I get to be the spiritual director of Vida Spiritual Learning Center, and it's my joy to bring you this week's inspirational message. It is truly a joy to be here with you today and to share this message of sacred activism, particularly as it pertains to economic fairness. Now, I want to talk to you about a powerful principle in that when everybody pays their fair share and everyone is paid their fair share, when we embrace these two principles, a third thing happens. And that third thing that happens is that there's more than enough to share and more than enough to spare. And so we're going to unpack that today and to ground us in this idea of sacred activism as it pertains to economics. I want to bring in a scripture, and I'm just going to paraphrase it. I'm not even going to quote where it's from, but you may recognize it. And it is said in the secular section of our life. Mostly every day I hear it in some form or fashion. And that is, from everyone who's been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. And, this idea, this quote, this scripture reminds us that it's our responsibility to contribute according to our means and according to our blessings. Now, here's the idea, is that when we have much, much more will be asked. And this is not only around economics, but what is really being pointed to here is that we're not being asked to be observers only of the world's suffering, of the world's joys. We're not called to be passive observers, but actually active participants in its growth, active participants in its healing. And this scripture, this quote really reminds us that as people of faith, as spiritual people, we're called to take action and to be in action and to make a positive difference in the world, especially when it comes to economic matters. Now, I know that one of my spiritual mentors and teachers, Michael Beckwith, he teaches us that the world operates through a dynamic exchange, and that it is the law, the reciprocal nature of life, the ebb and the flow, the giving and the receiving, and the dynamic exchange of all of life. And that giving and receiving, they're actually different aspects of the flow of the energy of the universe. I've learned as well that giving and receiving is like the two sides of a coin, the heads and the tail, that you have to have a receiver in order for the giver to give. And in that flow, in that dynamic exchange, that's where we begin to see abundance. That's where we begin to see this principle directly speak to the idea that when everyone pays their fair share, when everyone is paid their fair share, abundance flows, and abundance flows generously and without limits. Let's unpack the first one, where everyone pays their fair share. Now, in our journey of social activism, it's essential that we contribute according to our means. Back in the day, it is known that even farmers would leave the fruit and the vegetation on the outskirts for those less fortunate, and that they would harvest everything from the inside of their fields, and that they would leave what was on the outskirts so that those less fortunate could come and be supplied. Now, as we're taught that those who've been blessed with much, those who've been blessed with much, they're called to give generously, like the farmers did. They would leave that on the outskirts to give generously. And it's not only about financial worth. So it's not only about giving money per se. Our farmers generously gave of their crops to those less fortunate. But it's also about contributing our wealth of talent, our time, our resources. And when we contribute our fair share, whether it's through volunteer time, whether it's through assisting younger people or our seniors or one another, what we do is we create an equitable economic system, and that system benefits everyone. Now, there's also organizations that do like volunteer time banks. And the way some of those work is that if I have a bookkeeping talent and I know how to do bookkeeping and I volunteer 10 hours of bookkeeping, there's someone else who knows how to crochet, or who is a teacher of a Spanish language or another language. And because they donate 10 hours of being able to teach someone Spanish language, we could actually do a trade. But it doesn't have to be the one-on-one trade. It's actually when someone contributes 10 hours in their specialty and I contribute my 10 hours in my specialty, when I am in need or have a desire for something that I'm not that well skilled at, I can go to that volunteer time bank and find someone who has that gift and talent, and then get 10 hours of education or 10 hours of service, of gardening, of whatever it is, assistance, because I have donated into that time bank and someone else has donated into that time bank that benefits me, mine, benefits someone else, and so forth and whatnot. So when we take a look at this idea that everyone pays their fair share, it's really about not only economics, but it's also about our time, our skills, our resources, our talents. So then we'll unpack number 2, that everyone is paid their fair share. On the flip side of that, there are skills, gifts, and talents that people want to be paid for. And when people are paid for their time and paid fairly, and their efforts are paid for with money, that contributes to the economic justice. It contributes because now I am going to work, I am in the labor force, I get paid a fair wage. And this idea of sacred activism and economic justice, it's deeply rooted in that idea that every individual has value. And when we recognize that everyone has value and that everyone deserves to be compensated fairly for their efforts, we uphold the principle and we actually promote dignity, respect, and equality in our society. I know here in the US, there are movements for fair wages for hotel workers, for housekeepers. There are fair wages for the people who serve our foods, or even the people who prepare and cook our food. Imagine being able to earn a fair wage for your labor, enough where you have dignity and respect, and that there's equanimity and equality in our society. The third point is that abundance is shared through all of this fairness. So this is the beautiful part of it all. When everyone pays their fair share and everyone is paid their fair share, we create this environment of abundance. I pay my fair share. I'm paid my fair share. It's not a zero-sum game where one person gains all this stuff and the other person loses out. It's actually a divine cycle. It's that divine cycle of giving and receiving. And when we share our blessings, we ensure fairness and abundance flows. And when abundance flows to me and I share from my abundance to others, and we do the same and likewise, what we recognize is that there is more than enough for everybody. You know, think about it. When we invest in education, in healthcare, in social services, we're not just helping other people. What we're doing is we're creating a stronger and a healthier, more prosperous society for everyone. And when businesses pay their employees fairly and treat them with respect and dignity, and they foster loyalty, then you have a motivated workforce. And a motivated workforce leads to an increase in positivity and productivity and success. So, beloveds, today, how are you in that flow? Where do you see yourself? Are you an employer? Are you an employee? Are you giving of your best and giving your fair share and paying your fair share? As an employer, are you paying your people a fair wage, a living wage, something that benefits our society? Because in the realm of conscious fairness, it's not just a noble idea. This is really a divine calling. It's about aligning our actions and our faith and our values and recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. It's about creating a world where everyone pays their fair share, where everyone is paid their fair share, and we allow the abundance to overflow. So in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, let us be the change that we wish to see in the world. Because when we embrace sacred activism as it relates to economic matters, we begin to pave the way for a brighter, more abundant future. So, beloveds, I trust that the blessings of fairness and of justice and of abundance flow in, through, and as you, and that you begin to create this world that works for everyone, and that together we awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Until the next time, I trust that this word has been a blessing onto your life. And so it is. Thanks for tuning in to Vida Spiritual Connection. Use the links in the description for prayer requests, to donate to Vida Spiritual Learning Center, and to join our mailing list. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And you can visit us at vidaslc.org for more information.